Alright, so in the last part, we've explored a few methods of combat that doesn't actually work, such as a person thinks he really moves too fast for another guy, and then there's ones who think they watch a kung fu movie and they fight like exactly in the movies, and then you have the ones where the certain techniques are derived specifically for their own applications and doesn't work against other people. So all of these are not wise or it's not practical approaches to realistic combat. Next, we're going to look at something that is realistic and it will be proven to work, right? Which is something that I would nickname it as, evade and counter. So this you typically see in almost all the modern combat sport, right? Whether it's boxing or MMA, the stand-up portion of it, or sanda, they all adopt this approach to combat. So what that means is, when that guy is punching me or he's attacking, I'm not trying to do this or do that or do anything complex, like that and this and all of that kind of thing. When he punches, I simply going to evade or I'm going to stay back if I can't evade, right? So in boxing, I'm sure you all know, you can either do a shoulder slip and you counter with a punch, or you just jump back if he does like a flurry, right? Or you hold up your hand and you let the punch and you stay back until you get an opening. So the idea behind this kind of approach is that he has a combo, right? He can't punch me indefinitely. So let's say it's a 3-hit combo, 4-hit combo, 5-hit combo, and now he's gonna stop. So all I have to do is make sure that I'm safe during that period, and then I will retaliate. So what this more or less works down to is that he will throw his combo at me. I'm going to parry that or whatever. Then once he's done, I'm going to come back with my 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever, right? So constantly you will see people gauging between this distance, right? So one combat sport, you see people will always try to find the distance. And then once someone feels comfortable, maybe he will take with like a low kick. The next time it will maybe be a 1, 2, and a kick, and another punch. If it misses, then I step back, and he's going to retaliate. I'm going to try to not get hit. And then when he's done, I'm going to then try to find an opening to go in again, and keep going back and forth until somebody makes a mistake. And for example, John Jong from UFC, what he does a lot is, in the beginning when the guy comes with like flurry of punches, he will hold it like this, and once he gets some space, he'll start doing that. So what that does is, he's protecting his head and chin. And this one, he's holding up enough space, so it makes it harder for the other guy to carry on with the combo. So the whole idea behind this is you're not trying to see every move, how it's coming, and then counter it, like the Hong Kong movie make us believe about Chinese martial art, right? Where if he does one specific move, I'm going to see it, pick it up, react, and do the exact correct counter. And then he's going to see my move and do a counter to that, right? So this method of combat that actually works doesn't actually do that. It uses a very general method of defense, right? Either moving your hair so it doesn't hit you in boxing, slipping, bob and weave, all of that, or you hold your hand and you control distance, right? Very simple thing that doesn't require inhuman-like reflex. And this is the reason why modern combat sport works so much better when it comes to fighting than these traditional styles. And some traditional styles, they also take this approach to combat, but they do it a lot less efficient, right? You will see some of the traditional people, when they spar, they'll stand like this, and they'll also like, I'll come and I'll do a punch and he'll step back, and then he'll do a punch and I'm going to step back, and I'm going to kick him and he steps back, he kicks me and I'm going to do that. They also have that, yes, the back and forth. But the problem to this is that it's not as efficient as the modern boxing way of doing this, or MMA, which the punching part is based from boxing. Reason for that is a lot of these Chinese styles, when they stand like this, they're doing a side horse stance, right? This stance actually come from old military days where they held spears, right? When you have spears, you need this kind of stance because you want to have as little surface of strike for your opponent as possible, right? That's why you stand like this, you don't stand like that. There's more areas that you can get hit. This one is less area. Second of all, because in the military days, people fought in formations, right? You don't fight by yourself. So everyone would stand next to each other, and then they're all pocket with spears, and then you can just poke forward. Right? Just everybody stand in line and do a poke. So this stance is quite good. Also, it helps you with reach and it helps you with strength in terms of speed. So when these guys were retired supposedly, and then don't have a speed anymore, they have to fight, then naturally they revert to whatever they know best, which is standing like this. Which is why a lot of early Chinese martial arts systems have the stance and they punch like this. And they hold their hand like that. You know, it's what you see in movies and all of that. However, this is actually not the optimized way to do combat, because when you stand like this, first of all, you're not very mobile. I mean, sure you can move this way, but this is not nearly as fast as moving like that, right? Or like kind of jumping stairs. Second of all, this hand has very bad reach, right? I have to turn all the way here to punch with that hand. And if I'm going to turn like this, the movement is way too big. And this hand, while I have reach, has no power because you can't lend anything from rotation of the body. So which is why when people are training this kind of stances, a lot of times they end up poking with this hand and then try to then connect with that. But overall, the flow is not the same because the one hand is always handicapped compared to the other. The two hands cannot work perfectly together, especially if you compare it to boxing, where both they have a lead hand and you know, the heavy hand and the lead hand, but because their stance is narrower and then the body also not facing completely sideways, so both hands have quite equal reach, and they can have combos where you do left, cross, hook, uppercut, hook, punch. There's a lot of more things you can do simultaneously with both hands. Whereas if you stand like this, it's very difficult to use both hands, because this one always going to have a reach problem compared to that one. Which overall makes the whole system of motion, mechanic of motion, less optimal. Which is why even though there are styles in China that do use a method of evading and attacking, it's nowhere near as effective. Which is why if you want to do this kind of combat approach, the best would be just to do boxing or MMA. Right? Don't do Chinese martial art for this. It's a waste of time. You're not gonna get good at fighting if you do a Chinese style who takes this approach. Unless they also fight like boxing. But in which case you might as well just do boxing because that's more authentic when it comes to this approach to combat. So in a nutshell, this approach is all about moving around, moving the head, protection like this, and not get hit while he's doing his combo. And when he's down, I'm gonna hope my combo he can't react, right? So whether it's gonna be like I'll give you a typical one where you start with a jab cross, which will draw the guy's attention here. Then you do a low kick, which causes people to have his attention downwards, and then try to knock him out with a hook, right? If that doesn't work, then maybe you try to rip shot him. Oh, if he moves back, then I just pull away, and then we try again. So whenever a combo fails, you come back, we do it again. He does a combo, I try my best to not get hit, move around, and when he's done, I'm going to come back with my combo. So this is one of the approaches to combat that actually works. But this is not what Chinese martial arts are good for. So if Chinese martial arts are using this method of combat, then they might as well just forget about it and do Western boxing. However, there is another approach to combat that's quite unique to Chinese martial arts, or rather I'll say it's very unique to specifically the internal martial arts. And that is called what we call in Chinese 迎击 or 合击. So what that means is, instead of giving space when a guy attacks, you actually go into him. You cut off his space. Now this can be seen in boxing matches too, right? In MMA matches as well. For example, there are times where somebody throws a punch, and then the other guy ducks to the side and do an overhand and knocks him over, right? I mean, I think they call it the Hail Mary shot because either you hit or you miss. But you see, there are fighters who are known to do that, where they will just duck and try to hit the other guy. So this, when you do connect, it works really well because when he's throwing a punch at me, he's not thinking about defense. So if I can hit him simultaneously while I'm not getting hit, there's a much higher chance to knock him out. As opposed to when he's not attacking, they have also tension on the fence. It's much harder to get opening and knock him out. Even if I do hit him on the face, he's going to be mentally prepared to take that hit, which is a lot different to when you get caught without expecting a punch to your chin. Which is why this kind of punches, the Hail Mary shots, works quite well. We do connect. But in boxing, MMA, and modern combat, this is not something you specifically train for, because it's not something you're gonna bank your bucks on, right? You bank your buck on the tried and true techniques of controlling space, finding openings, head movement, body movement, punch combos, kick combo, punch kicks, takedown, and all of that. However, in Chinese martial arts, the internal styles, the whole fighting system is actually based on this approach to combat. Now, the reason this isn't used by people outside of internal styles nearly as much, I know Wing Chun also talk about cutting into space, cutting up the distance, controlling, and then punching. However, if you really look at Wing Chun people who does fight, most of the time they just do Chen punch, right? They actually don't do what they preach they can do. And those masters who demonstrate this only do it on their students. And I'm yet to see them demonstrating on total strangers who knows how to fight. Now, the internal style, on the other hand, have something very important that makes this whole approach work, right? The other styles tend to lack, which is understanding to structure. Okay, the reason why conventionally people don't want to run into each other is because when you do that, it's very hard to do anything, right? When he's running into me, I'm running into him. First of all, the space is little, the distance is short. So in this distance, it's much harder to swing a punch. Whereas if I'm here, I can do a cross and hopefully knock him out. I can do a hook or uppercut. There's enough space to create momentum. But when you're like this close, there's not enough space, which is why in boxing, when people are this close, they hug each other, or they'll just hold it like this, and then they'll try to do a body shot. But almost no one gets knocked out from that kind of. They just trade shot until they get broke up again. And in MMA, of course, when you get that close, you tackle, underhook, overhook, double leg, or clinch. Then you do the knee, push him to a fence, and all of that. They very suddenly try to strike people when you come to that distance. And in street fights, like untrained people, you often see that they don't understand space. So they'll charge into each other swinging, but at the end of the day, no one actually getting hurt because they're so busy pushing into each other and losing balance, and then the punch are so badly, the body is in such a bad posturing and structure that the punch end up not having much power. So you see they will constantly charge into each other like animals, but at the end of the day, no one actually get hurt. So that's how untrained people fight. So if you look at the modern combat sport, it's actually a step above that, right? When I teach my students, initially I'll tell them, don't stand there and trade blows. When he tries to hit you, you step back. And then when he's done with it, you come back with yours. Right? That is the first step to go beyond untrained fighting. However, internal martial arts sort of revert back to the old way of fighting where you don't step back. But they do it with a different meaning. By that, I mean structure. So the reason this fighting is bad, in general sense, I've already said, because we are pushing into each other, whether it's our momentum or our hands, and then so it affects your balance and your ability to strike, right? It's much easier to strike disconnected, strike with force than when you tangle up and people hug you and all of that. However, if you have structure, it's a different story. So, for example, if now this obviously is just control demonstration, like in Yi Quan, where if you were to just hold my hand like this, if it's an untrained person, you'll be both struggling here, and then you have to tense up to not get pushed over. In which case, because you are tense, you can't actually strike, right? Your muscles are already at 100%. However, what structure is that I can let him push, but I'm still reasonably relaxed and using a different type of body mechanic to move him. So once you have something like this, then it's much easier to charge into a guy while he's charging into me by just doing this. And then while he's off balance, I can punch him. So that's the most important criteria, that internal styles you are able to run into a person without his strength affecting your balance. Okay, so if you both ran each other and you felt both got stuck, then that's a bad thing. He rather fight disconnected and move around. But if you can ram into a guy and feel nothing, and he bounces and he get pushed over, then yeah, you don't need to stay back. Right? Imagine fighting a kid. You just walk forward and the kid's gonna fall over. You don't need to dodge the kid. So that's how internal style approach this in a nutshell. Now let's look at a few specific examples so you can have a better idea. For example, in Xing Yi, the first move in Xing Yi, right, is this, 转, and then they do a P. Keep in mind, I don't do Xing Yi, so this is just to get you an idea of how each of the internal styles approach this. So don't quote my movement or power generation, I don't do Xing Yi. Alright, so the reason this punch goes up like that is precisely in order to break structure or break force, right? So when somebody punches, the idea is that you go from here into a circular motion that first goes up and then forward and then downwards. Due to the way you move in the circle, it breaks up any straight force. Furthermore, you learn to use your whole body in a way that you're not just tense on the arm. So let's say he's grabbing my wrist, both hands. Right, if I just use my arm, then yeah, you get stuck. But in Xing Yi, this one is actually relaxed and using the body, okay, to do this. Right, so that's more or less how the structure work. And of course, a punch is not going to be a grab. A grab is stable, so the force is constant. A punch is much quicker. But the idea is that if I just got my center line, and he punches, then somehow either I'm going to knock his punch out of the way, or the force is going to connect, and I'm going to affect his entire body. Right? So the whole idea is that I don't really care what he does. The moment he punches, I'm just going to do this, and bump whatever he's throwing at me over my center line, and then through this motion, I'm going to follow up with P. So that's why they have to move like this. And you almost do this blindly into the guy, not in a bad way, right? This is when you can understand that there's one key that fits them all. Right? We talked previously about how it doesn't work if you want to have one specific key for every situation, because there's just too many keys to remember. Your head is not that complex, it's not that powerful so that you can have so many different options all in the back of your head, and you can get any of them in the flick of your finger. It doesn't work like that. So what works, like in boxing, I've already said, you have a few punches, a few slips, and you make them work. So same in Xing Yi, there's just, I almost don't have to care what he does. The moment he moves, it's going to go in and hope my superior structure is going to overcome him. And the moment he's off balance, then the next shot is going to hit. And when that hits, then yeah, then you can do whatever. Right, so that's how more or less why Qi Chuan is like that. And this is have a quick look at Beng Quan. Right? Beng Quan is one of the very confusing punches because you're not guarding your face, and you're punching in a very weird angle, right? Normally, if you look at the modern context, everybody want to punch up here, want to protect your face and punch there. But Beng Quan, they punch like that. Which is why a lot of these modern Xing Yi practitioners don't actually believe Beng Quan works this way. I have people tell me, Beng Quan is just a linear power. You practice like this, but when you punch like that. Okay, that's very, very wrong. Sure, Beng Quan is a type of power. Same with every other elemental hand in Xing Yi. It's all about developing that power. Like P is a downwards force, a straight force, etc., upwards force. But Beng Quan is a very specific straight force. The force is at this height. It's not this. This is not Beng Quan. Okay? And the reason they don't guard the face is because they're not counting on blocking, right? It's rather like the moment I start a fight, I'm just going to go in and punch him right there. And give me enough speed and the position of my body, right, as in right into the guy. You want to catch him off guard before he even throw a punch. Or in times where he does throw a punch, you're going to try to sidestep it. So like he will punch forward and you'll be like this. Right? And the whole point is you want to do it at the moment he attempts to strike you. You're not going to try to do it after he punches, because then it's too late. Right? And next we're going to look at a bit of, they already talked about 转拳. 转拳 is basically, you can use it as uppercut, but you can also use to break incoming force, and then there's power which is even more obvious, right? It's defense, attack at the same time, and it's not like in the other sense, like in karate, where you block and maybe attack at the same. Well, they actually block and attack, but like in Wing Chun, right, they will block and attack at the same time. It's similar to that, but the difference is I'm not just standing here. He punches me, and then I'm doing that. The whole thing about Xingyi structure is that when he about to punch, it's going right into him. Right? So if he does punch, it's going to be completely rammed out. It's about ramming into the guy and cutting off that space. Heng Quan is the same, right? You can probably imagine. It's also one punch that can deal with everything. You don't have to be specific on where he punched, how he punched. The moment he moves, you're just going to do that. And hopefully your structure is going to cut him off and push off balance. So you can follow up with another punch. Anyway, like I said, I don't do Xingyi, so this is just a rough idea of how these moves work. And if you think about it, this makes way more sense than what a lot of the other modern people are studying about move, counter move, and all of that. Right? That is very moving material. Next, we'll look a little bit of Bagua. Again, I don't do Bagua, and I've seen very, very few genuine Bagua people who can actually fight. I'm going to talk about one thing, right? Everyone knows for a fact that originally it's founded in Donghuan only have two moves. You have the Danhuanzhang, single palm change, and then the double palm change. It actually doesn't have anything else. Original style of Bagua is actually called Zhuanzhang or Chuanzhang. Zhuanzhang means circular palm. Chuanzhang means Chuan is a motion like this. So they actually weren't even called Bagua. So this whole 8 trigram, 64 diagram is all added later on. It was not there originally. Right? Donghuan Chuan, while he was alive, pawned people by just single hand change and double palm change. And how he actually does that is quite a mystery because no one alive has seen it. However, I did have the fortune to meet one of the very old Bagua masters. I met him, he was like 97. But he really gave me ideas on how it could be possible, right? So what he often can do is he will park here in the Danhuanzhang position, single palm changing, and he will have a guy holding his arm here. Okay, now normally when you use strings, you do that, you get pushed back, right? Because it's awkward position. But due to his internal structure, he can do this and do something similar to this. A lot better than me, of course. So he will easily just do this, and the guy will be pushed off. And I try it myself, and I get pushed off as well, even though I'm trying to, as my best to push him down. Now, of course, he was 97, so I can't really say less spot. But what he does give me this realization that if Donghuan Chuan or whoever came after him have that kind of power, they only need those two hands. They don't need anything else, right? So essentially, again, when somebody tries to attack you, you don't even have to see what he does. All you have to do is this. And this covers this whole range. It covers everything. I don't have to be specific about where he's punching, how he's punching. All I need to know is that he's going to punch me or he's stepping in. So I'm going to step in with him, and then due to my structure, either I'm going to knock him out, or I'm going to knock his hand out and hit him on the neck. And that's how you win fights, which is one move. And again, this is quite a rough version because I don't actually do Bagua. It just gives you an idea of how everything connects together. Next, we look at Tai Chi. Right? Tai Chi is another style that has a lot of debate on with how to use it. A lot of people, especially in modern day, talk about application, like needle in the sea is like how you break out of a joint lock on the wrist, and how repulse monkey is how when somebody grab you from the back, and then you throw him over, etc., etc. And in fact, there was a very famous master who talked about this on TV, how repulse monkey you train like this, but in actual fact, it's for when you grab somebody and you do that. Now, personally, I think that's all bogus. Okay, that's all rubbish, because if you have a specific move to counter every single way someone can grab you, you're gonna have to remember a few hundred techniques, which is impractical and impossible. Right? It doesn't work like that. I refuse to believe that the ancestors of Tai Chi invented a specific move just for a joint lock. for something as trivial as that, right? It's stupid because somebody grabbed me on the arm, it's going to punch me in the face. Why do I need to do this? And if I do this, why do I need to include it in the form? Like it's something important, right? I mean, how many people grab his rules in his lifetime that he actually needs to include this into the form? So those are all bad interpretations of how it should be done, and that's because the knowledge was lost, right? Somewhere along the line, especially for Tai Chi, the knowledge of combat is mostly lost. However, if you understand the ability of structure and what it can do, it's not hard to understand that Tai Chi is about delivering a type of power rather than technique-based. So rehearse monkey, like the one we said, the actual way that I believe it's intended for, and this way I believe it makes a lot more sense, is that when he punches, I block the punch and hit him at the same time, like that. Okay, and somebody might say, yeah, but you're putting the punch onto your body. The difference is that when he's punching, he has a certain motion. The moment I tap him, that motion is distracted, right? So it's really not as hard as it would be. And at the same time, I'm going to hit him right into the chest. And if I do it fast enough, then this punch, most of the power will not be able to hurt me. And of course, if you do it correctly, this one should actually miss, right? You shouldn't hit it onto. Even if you hit onto, it's not that bad. But if you do it properly, this one will miss, and this one will hit. And just imagine, you know nothing about this, and you're facing someone, you took a punch, and he does that. I mean, what's the chance of you actually getting out of that? It's almost zero, because it's completely unexpected. And that's what I meant by the value of this type of approach to combat is quite nice, because people never see it coming, just like the Hail Mary punch. Right? They don't expect you to punch his face when he's throwing a punch. So this is the same thing. And if you can do this, then you'll be pretty chilled about fighting. Another example we'll look at is single whoop. Right? Single whoop is another thing where there's so many arguments on how to use it. Right? The move, if it's chain style, it looks like this. If it's yang style, it just goes like that. There's so many, explanations I heard about people about blocking leg, grabbing leg, throwing, joint lock, all kind of stuff. And again, I think the answer lies in something much more simple, which is counter to a hook. So this hand is there to stop the hook, and this one is to strike. And again, you do it simultaneously, and you go into the guy. Instead of backing off, when he hooks, you go right into him. Okay, and important thing here is that normally, if you don't have the correct structure, the hook will have so much power that when you try to do this, it's going to knock you back. It's going to push your arm in or knock your balance out, and it doesn't work. However, with the correct structure, right, if you're interested, you can watch my previous video on my Tai Chi brother's structure ability and how I punch him and how he not get affected. Right, you can watch that to go into more depth. So the point is, if you have the correct structure, when that punch comes, your body is not affected. Right, you're not tense. The power doesn't get stuck on you, and he actually feels uncomfortable. It's almost like something is pulling his arm out that way rather than him pushing me in this way. And at that very moment, this hand will connect to the chest. And the reason why it connects to the chest like this, right, is another interesting thing, because in the form, single whoop goes like this. The hand just comes up and plays there, right? It's not actually a strike. I mean, there are people who think it's a strike, but in that case, then the move would look something like this, right? I mean, why does it look like that? Why the placement of the hand is so gentle? It's because this kind of strike doesn't use momentum. I'm not trying to hit from there. Instead, you place your hand here and you sink your structure into it like this. I can't really do it on him, but it's a very uncomfortable feeling if you get hit solidly here. It knocks your air out, it cramps up your lung, and your chest will be in pain on the inside for weeks, right? Let me just quickly do it on this. Even though I'm not going to do it very hard, just to get you a rough idea. So when you're doing a single whoop strike, it's almost like this, like that, right? So, and you can see that the start of that move is quite gentle. I don't have to do that. It just picks up and then there, which is why the move itself is like this. It's not a big hit. And so this is another example of how you cut into the guy instead of moving back. And yes, you do kind of block, but it's not a very specific block, and it's not really a block. It's more of taking his balance away. Right? I'm more about taking the balance than actually blocking a punch. Okay, the next one I'm going to look at is brush knee, right? A move that looks like this. Again, it's a highly debatable move. People who say you block kicks, you throw someone, etc., etc. Now, the Tongbei I do have a very similar technique because it comes from, it has its root in Tai Chi. So it has the same move. So that's how I tend to think how brush knee work, which is basically a parry to the punch, but it's more than a parry. Right? Parry is more like he punches and I just do that and cause the punch to miss. Brush knee is more like this. You have structures that completely breaks balance, right? So what it actually does is when he punches, you do that and you hit him. And the punch and the strike is similar to single whoop. It's a touch and then you sink your force into his chest. And the reason there's two is because you can block both hands. So it can be this one and then that one and you do that. Or when he has a lot of sort of bridging or structure, then this one doesn't work, then it comes through that way. Alright. Now this might look similar to block, but again you need to understand the quality behind it is not about block, it's about structure that remove his balance. I'm not, when I'm doing this, I'm not just blocking his punch or his arm, right? I'm gonna just let him solid up so you can see the effect of it. So if he's really solid, without having a punch, of course when you punch he's not solid, but let's just for argument's sake, if he's solid and you do a parry, it doesn't work because he have more stable structure than your hand. Right? And that's how block normally works, it's like that. But in Tai Chi, this one looks something like this. Right? See how his whole body gets shaken. And that's the moment where I hit him. Right? I'm not hitting him by doing this and then trying to hit. No, it's that. So the important thing to understand here is in internal style, you go into the guy to take away his balance and structure, put him in a less advantageous position, and then you strike. It's not about blocking a punch or using the technique. The technique is not important. Important is the power. Right? You can have this technique very easily, but you don't have the structure, the power to shake his whole body. It's not going to work. So of course there's a lot more, but this we're going to stop for Tai Chi. Next we're going to talk a little bit on each one. If you're interested in more detailed explanation on each one, you can watch my previous video about the beginner's introduction to each one. Right here, I'm going to quickly run through the simple idea. In each one, there are 4 types of engagement, right? Either my hand on the outside, my hand on the inside, one outside, one inside, or vice versa. So the theory is that no matter how it ends, I'm going to end up in one of those 4 positions. And based on that, there is a reaction or power generation for each situation that I use to unbalance him. Right? So let's look at the first one, fluent, which is something similar to this. So how that typically works is, when I approach a guy in combat, now if I initiate the fight, I'm just going to go up to a guy and does this. But with structures, it will look something more like this. And after that moment, after he's getting yanked forward and his head jerked, and it's the moment his back head's going to get a shock, then I'm going to punch him and then finish the fight. Okay, and but let's look at the whole thing about the master key. But if I don't engage and he engages with that punch, I can still do this. I don't have to change a move. I don't need a new move for this, right? I'm intended to do this. If he doesn't move, I do this. If he punches with that, I still do this. If he punches with that, I still do this. In fact, I can do this and still do that. Even if he just punches like this, I can still seek for both hands. So I'm pretty safe, or should I say I can be pretty blunt about what he's going to do. I'm just going to do this to him either way. And of course, if he does a hook, this doesn't work. But due to the each one stance, it's very easy to just switch to outwards expansion and cut him off here, much like single whoop. Right? Single whoop has a more downwards force. Right? The single whoop force actually goes down like that, the hands like this. So that's more like when he punches, you do that. Whereas each one is more like of a linear cut. So from here, I'm just going to punch him right through the jaw like that. It will be just there and there. And because my hand is over here, and his hand is over here, if he were to do a hook, it's quite visible that his hand will disappear from here, right? Because my hand is here and his hand is here. So it's much easier for me to, let's say I'm planning to do this to him, but when I'm on the process of doing that and he changes, I just have to go like that. It's a much easier change to having to do a different technique. Right? So that's what I'm trying to say, that like in eternal styles, like you can see here in each one, it's almost like one thing. I'm just gonna go forward like this. If he hooks, it's gonna be like that. If he doesn't, I'm gonna do this. And once I connect, I'm gonna be confident enough that his whole balance and structure are gonna get disrupted, giving me enough time to punch him really, really hard. And of course, in this type of range, hand being like over here, normally it's much harder to punch. Right? People need distance to throw punches. But in each one and other internal styles, you can literally just punch from here. Right? That's the way they practice. That's the whole important thing of structure. And again, if you want to know about this, look into the other videos I've made in the past. But so in short, you're able to cut in, break his structure, and then punch him. And of course, if my hands didn't end up like this, end up like that instead, then it's different. I'm going to squeeze him that way, push him this way, and hit him there. So there are slight different variations, right? Only 4 pretty much. Whether I'm going to do this way, I'm going to go that way, outside, or inside, and that's it. There's no 100 different moves for 100 different things. And some of the Interchange masters I met don't even bother with that, right? The one master I met back in 2014, he didn't even do that. He just walked up to me with his hand held up like this. And every time I tried to engage that arm, I got pushed right onto the wall, like literally off balance like that. And if I don't engage this, well, his hand right in front of my face, right? I mean, I thought about maybe ducking down and punch, but his hand is right here, so it's quite a risk. And I can't punch through the hand because his hand was like this. It's pretty much covers everything. If you go for the stomach, it will just land on my head, which is really bad. And if I don't have to deal with his hand, I can't punch straight through that hand. And he has so much structure. Every time I try to, he was like, let's say he was working on, every time I try to do something to this, to that, I get pushed back, and he was just pushing regardless. It's almost like, he was toying with a kid. He would just casually walk up to me like this, and I'll fall over. So, when I was facing him, we exchanged, friendly exchange, so to speak, for like half an hour. There's nothing I can do to actually break his method of combat. It was very troubling for me at the time. Nothing works. I mean, even if I did try to side step and sucker punch him in the face, first of all, there's no guarantee it's going to connect because his hand is quite well covered. And he's going to probably hit me much harder in return. And I don't want to get broken rib or anything, so I didn't do that. The point is, this kind of combat, approach to combat is very unique, almost unheard of to a lot of people, but it's actually really effective if you have that kind of structural force. Right, next, we're going to look at Tong Bei, which is the one style I picked up 2.5 years ago. And because it has its root in Yang family, sort of the founder of our lineage of Tong Bei spent 10 years in the Yang family, so we have Tai Chi principle infused with Tong Bei. And so as a result, our Tong Bei approach is also very internal based. We don't duck around and move back and then try to do what we call hand flirting, right? What hand flirting means is when you see Tong Bei guys have their hands out like this, and then they do that. And then that's what we call hand flirting. That's very bad. In my system, if I do hand flirting, my master will just slap me. It's a very, very bad thing. We instead park like this, wait for the guy to make a move, and then we hit them. How that works, again, you need a very specific type of structure and power generation. If you don't have that, this move doesn't work. But when you do, let's look at single out circular hand. Right? No, inner circular hand, right, which looks like this. Very simple move, but you can almost use it against everything. So if you throw that hand, it's going to intercept. If you throw that hand, it's going to intercept. If you throw a hook, it's going to intercept. If you throw a hook that way, chances are I'm going to slap him in the face before his hook comes across. And if he does an uppercut, or I don't know why people would do this, but let's just, for argument's sake, he does an uppercut or like a lower range punch, I'm going to slap him in the face. And if he does with that hand, I'm going to slap him in the face. So I pretty much can just use this one move against everything he's going to do except kicks. But of course, kicks are in a much bigger range, right? In this range, you're not going to just do this. But if we were already at this range, then whatever he does, the moment he does it, I'm going to just blindly do that, and it's probably going to work. And of course, even if you're slightly far away, if you're going to kick me here, I have to start the kick there, which means I can react to do something else. But if you actually took a step forward, then I know for a chance it's going to be a kick. So all I need to do for my cue is that he took a step. Sorry. So I'm just going to come in with that. I don't even have to care what he does. And of course, you need the right power, right? And if you do this to a guy's punch and nothing happened, yeah, you're in trouble. However, I'm going to show an example of the power. So just hold solid again. So the power sort of looks like this. Right? See the kind of shock he has. And keep in mind, this is when he's appropriately tensing up. Right? When you punch somebody, actually add this quality. And furthermore, when the force to this way, when the resistance is big, it actually turns around. So the full move will look something like this. And that's what we follow up with the second hand. Very similar to brush knee in Tai Chi. Right, except this one is more offensive because if he's not punching, I'm going to slap him in the face like that. And after that, the retaliation is just a palm to the hand to the face and a punch to the ribs. Of course, there could be other finishing moves, but again, you don't need 5 million finishing moves, right? Personally, I only know this one: palm to the face, punch to the ribs. That's enough because you're ever going to only fight the same guy once on the street or in self-defense situation. He's not going to know your moveset, so there's no need to have, a lot of different finishes. I can do this one finisher to everyone I meet in a street conflict, and it will work. And keep things simple. The less you actually need to think about, the better chance of you actually applying it in a stress situation. And this is a good example of how the master key concept works, where one move deals with all situations rather than a specific move for a specific situation. Another one I can look at is short stride down again, right? One of the moves I spent a lot of time practicing. So the other move, I'm just going to try not to his face, right, like that, at an angle, so and I cause a response. However, if he punches with that hand, a stride down will just cut off like that, and I'll be stepping in, so it'll look something like this. Okay, so if I do without him, it will look something like this. And notice how power, this heavy sinking force, if I actually connect to his arm, his whole body is going to get yanked forward, which again allows me to do the palm to the face, and then punch to the face, or I can step in and do the real punch. And if this hand really in the way, then I can punch with that hand. It doesn't really matter at that point. Now, if he's punching with that hand, again I can do this. Or if he's a tad slower, I'm going to just hit him in the face. And if he does a hook on that side, again, it's the same. You can still do the same technique, and instead just yank him that way instead of this way. And of course, you might think he might hit you with that hand in a bad position. However, if you have the right power of generation, let me just do it here so it doesn't get hurt. See that. It's going to render this hand not very useful, even if he does try to throw a punch. His balance is getting so awkward, the punch is not going to be effective. So I don't actually need to worry about that hand. And from here, I can either hit him there or I can just slap him that way, backwards. Which would, so if I do it quickly, and that way, then now when I hit his face, I also can cover myself for a possible punch on that side. Now, again, if you were to do a hook, again, I don't know what, an uppercut, it will still work. I either hit him in the face or I'm going to hit him on the arm. I almost don't even need to look at that, and just don't move. Okay. It's going to look at that and do this, and then follow up. So the only thing that doesn't quite work on is probably a hook that way. But you only need to have two reflex in this case, right? Either you're gonna, anything that's not that, you can just do this. And with that, you just do a shuai zhang this way, right? This is the first, the proper way, we call this the reverse shuai zhang. So instead of shuai zhang here, instead of shuai zhang there, and then do the same. So although it's a different angle, it's the same move. I'm just using shuai zhang. I'm not using any other move. So again, this will show you the importance of the master key, right? Or having one move. So I can just spend 3 years on this one move. And then having my training partner, give me different situations where I just use this one move. And if you just do that, and you go on the street, you'll be able to use this one move against almost everyone. There's no need to have any other move. You go out to any guy, try to actually do that thing, and it will probably work. And then lastly, we're going to talk about mid-punch. Right? This is my master's favorite move. It's a very difficult move. It's one of the hardest power to generate in our system. And so I'm very good at it. But it is one of my master's favorite moves, and he have used it in real life against other martial artists and supposedly famous masters. So I'm going to just quickly look at a few examples. First of all, he once fought a guy called Yu Shaoyi. He's quite a recognized Chinese wrestler in Beijing. He also did boxing, was one of the first national champions in China in boxing. And he also does white ape Tongbei, right? Baiyuan Tongbei. So he was at some point not very happy with my master because his elder Tongbei brother lost a duel to my master and then got converted to Wuxing Tongbei. And he always felt that my master cheated his Tongbei brother. So that one time where they happened to be in the same vicinity, he challenged my master, right? He come up and did a hook. And later on, right, my master was told by other people that this hook is one of his famous moves. So what he does is he will hook someone, and when you block, then he will do something to the arm and do Chinese wrestling stuff to then throw the guy on the ground. And it works quite well against other people. And if my master were to block that hook, it will probably end up the same. However, what my master did was completely unexpected. He came to my master and did a hook. My master did a mid-punch right to his rib. And then he took a few steps back, and he was very impressed and convinced that he lost. And later on, he also joined our lineage of Wuxing Tongbei. Now let's take a quick look why would this work? Okay, first of all, a hook have to end somewhere like that. So if I actually take half step forward, it's going to miss its mark. And second of all, I'm taking a half step not just forward but also to the side, which gives me a better angle at his rib. And lastly, a hook, no matter how fast, is still going to be slower than the mid punch right here. And the rib being quite a weak spot, once you hit here, you get so disrupted, you're going to lose power in that punch too. So, but of course, if you were to see a hook first and then do the mid punch, it will be too late, right? That kind of reflex doesn't work. It's not humanly possible. What my master did was he didn't react to a hook. He reacted to the fact he moved, right? So he doesn't have a plan against a hook or against a straight or against a kick. All he did was park there. That person, the moment he started to move, he punched it down, and it worked. Now you might think that's like a lucky shot, right? What if he did something else? The point is, this mid punch almost works against everything. Was also another time where my master was teaching in Shandong, and he was saying to the people, well, the first time he went there, so he was asking people if they don't believe him, they can come up and experience. So one guy walked up, and actually talking to my master, he said, what about kicks? And then he just took a step and did a stand-up kick. Out of nowhere, almost like a sucker punch sort of kick. So again, what my master did was he just took a step forward and then mid-punching right on the joint. And the guy like sat down on the floor and couldn't get up for a minute. Again, he was really shocked at the type of response my master had. Right? Normal people, when you see a kick, you either step back or you try to check, or if it's a very high, you're going to block, or whatever the case, a lot of the traditional guys, they actually try to go down to block the kick and get punched in the face. All of these things are pretty bad. But instead, what master did was he just saw a guy move, and he went in with the punch. And if you really look at it, So pretty much anything on this side, you can actually counter with the mid punch, right? Whether it is a hook, even if it's like a straight, because you're actually stepping sideways, and you step right there. It's almost like a almost like a boxing slip. Instead, you do a punch while you're doing that. And most importantly, the punch happens so fast, right? It's not just speed; it's the way he explodes into the punch. Like last year I was training there. He was teaching me the punch. While he was showing me, I literally stood in front of him, and I asked myself if I were to face him off, can I react to the punch? And I couldn't. His punch just happened so fast. It's not because of pure speed, but also there's no telegraphing, right? He doesn't have a movement like left hand punch. He stands there, and the punch is over. And even though it's that fast, it's not a flick. He's actually punching with his whole structure, like that. It's not just a flick with the arm. So the punch hurts a lot if you do connect. So that's another example of how you don't block, you don't give away, you don't step back, you don't give space. He moves, I move, and we trade. And because of my superior structure and internal training, all of that, I'm going to trade for the better. So in general, this is how Chinese internal martial art is supposed to approach combat. So if you want to do internal martial art and you wish to be practical about it, then you better hope that your teacher is doing a variation of that, right? If your teacher is teaching you A counters B, B counters C, and all of that, then you're probably wasting your time and money. And also, furthermore, Chinese martial art as a whole has been pretty outdated, right? Boxing approach to combat, MMA, is actually much more advanced and developed than most of the traditional Chinese approach, except the internal martial art, right? So I believe they're the only one who still has value as far as practicality goes in Chinese martial art. I know this is going to probably offend a lot of people, but most of the external styles, they are outdated, and their method of combat is not better than boxing. So if you're going to fight like that, do boxing or MMA, it's probably a lot better. And if you do Chinese martial art, you have to, do something similar to this to have real value. Of course, if you just want to do it because you want to look cool, show off to friends, be like your childhood dream of being a kung fu movie, then yeah, you can do whatever. But practicality-wise, these are the only ones that are still viable in today's world. Alright, that'll be all for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and any constructive comments will be welcome to leave in the comment section below. And thanks for watching TriEssence Martial Art channel, and see you next time.